don't live in the 19th century anymore. We have an economy that is not just about goods, it's about goods and services. And if you look at the actual trade figures, including both goods and services, the U.S. looks better positioned in virtually every country when you add in services. Why doesn't the president be honest with the American public about the extent of these trade deficits if they are, in fact, such an emergency? The president has used these tariffs to impose tariffs on nations where we have trade surpluses, like Brazil. He's imposing tariffs on nations that have no trade barriers to the United States, like Israel and Singapore. And he's measuring trade deficits the wrong way by only including goods, not services. Second, the president has calculated these trade deficits on goods without calculating the effect of the population of the countries involved. So let me give you an example. The president says if we have a trade deficit with Vietnam, they're ripping us off because they're not buying as much American stuff as we're buying Vietnamese stuff. That's what the trade deficit in goods basically is. We're buying more of their stuff than they're buying of our stuff. But hold on a second. Vietnam is a third the size of the United States. Vietnam is a country with per capita income much lower than American per capita income. They don't have the purchasing power that the United States does. So why is it a problem that they aren't purchasing as much American goods as we are purchasing Vietnamese goods? They're a smaller country. The same with Canada. The same with Japan. The same with so many nations around the world. They're dramatically smaller than us, and so naturally they don't have the purchasing power that the American consumer has. Finally, and I'll conclude with a word about the House after this, the way that the president has imposed the tariffs is leading to nothing but chaos. Announce tariffs on everyone, then announce that they may be suspended or delayed while I work out one-on-one deals with different nations, and I may give an exception to this country or that industry sector or that company. If you come and plead and make nice with me, I'll give you an exception. This has led to a chaotic circumstance. When the president announced the tariff rate with Korea, Toyota's stock, get this, okay, there's going to be a tariff on Korean imports. Toyota's stock went up. Why did it go up? Because the rate that he announced was less than the tariff that's being applied to automobiles coming in from Mexico and Canada, which has a lot of the content of American automobiles. It's a strange thing when you're cutting deals with other nations that disadvantage American production. That's what this chaotic tariff regime has done. And that's why my businesses around Virginia are telling me we want to make investments, we want to grow, but we can't grow until we know what the rules are. And every new announcement of a tariff or a delay or a suspension or an exception or a new deal for some other country that makes our products competitively disadvantaged slows down investment in Virginia. The last thing I'll say is this. I hope this passes as the two previous resolutions did. And if it does, it will be up to the House to take this up. The House has done something that should really shock people in the public and in this body. This matter is privileged in the House as it is in the Senate. If it passes, House statutes and rules suggest that it should be taken up for a vote on the floor of the House. The rule in the House was that it would need to be within the committee for 15 days and then be reported and then pending for 3 days on the floor. Action would be taken on these matters within 18 days in the House. Guess what? The House is so afraid to vote on tariffs. They are so afraid of the effects these tariffs are having on their constituents, but equally afraid of crossing Donald Trump, that they passed a rule that said for purposes of this and this only, the day-to-day extends through the remainder of Congress. So the 15 days plus 3 days, it ripens in 18 days. Action must be taken in 18 days. They have defined today as a day that lasts to the end of Congress, so the matter will never ripen and be privileged in the House. If they're that afraid of a vote on tariffs, that they would result to that kind of legislative chicanery, that should tell us something. They need to do a discharge petition in the House, put this matter on the floor, and put every House member on record, as senators will go on record, as to whether they're for higher prices or lower prices. And with that, I yield the floor, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Senator from Idaho.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the following senators be permitted to speak prior to the scheduled roll call votes. Myself for 5 minutes and Senator Sullivan for 10 minutes.
Without objection.
And Mr. President, I also ask unanimous consent to waive the mandatory quorum call in relation to the Dunlap nomination.
Without objection.
Thank you. Mr. President, I rise in opposition to S.J. Res. 88, which would terminate the trade deficit national emergency. I agree with my colleagues that tariffs should be more targeted to avoid harm to Americans. I made precisely that point at a Finance Committee hearing in May. We should consider more exemptions, whether for unavailable natural resources, capital equipment, or other key inputs. It's equally important that enforcement guidance provides the clarity that U.S. companies need to comply with the tariffs and make critical business decisions. Similarly, as the administration continues to negotiate with our trading partners, I appreciate that my colleagues, as well as our constituents, may be nervous about what comes next. However, at this juncture, this resolution is counterproductive to helping American families and businesses of all sizes. It's no secret that for decades, countries around the globe have raised tariff and non-tariff barriers against Americans and against American businesses, and have raised the cost for Americans and American businesses without response by the United States. President Trump is now responding and saying these countries need to take down their tariff and their non-tariff barriers and deal with us in fair and free trade. The president's negotiations are bearing fruit. President Trump already announced new trade deals. Just today, because of his negotiations, President Trump announced that China has agreed not to implement its rare earth export controls. China also agreed to address the flow of fentanyl and to purchase soybeans. Other deals are hopefully forthcoming. Consequently, S.J. Res. 88 is counterproductive to the progress already made by the president and the new gains he can still achieve in the ongoing trade negotiations. On April 30, the Senate rejected this same resolution for these reasons. And I urge my colleagues to reject the resolution for these same reasons again today. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Senator from Alaska.
Mr. President, we're getting ready to vote on my CRA, Senate Joint Resolution 80. And by the way, I appreciated the strong bipartisan vote yesterday to get on this bill. This is a really important resolution for our country, for my state, for the Native people, and the workers of America. So I'm asking my Democrat colleagues to really think hard about this. I see the Schumer, Heinrich vote no on the Sullivan CRA down there, but I want to make a plea to my Democrat colleagues. You should vote yes on this Senate resolution. You had one courageous one yesterday, Senator Fetterman, and here's why. A vote yes on this resolution is a vote to unleash American energy. As I talked about yesterday, the best way to undermine Vladimir Putin and his corrupt regime in Russia is to produce more American energy in the place with the highest standards in the world. That happens to be my state. That happens to be the National Petroleum Reserve of Alaska, which is all about what this CRA is about. Second, this is really important, Mr. President. My colleagues over there love to say, hey, we're the party of the working families, of working Americans. No, you're not. A vote yes on this resolution is a pro-union, pro-worker vote. The laborers, operating engineers, they all want a yes on this. They all produce oil up here. This is a chance. My colleagues for too long on the other side of the aisle kowtow to the far left environmental groups at the expense of working Americans. That's why you're no longer the party of working Americans. This is a chance. Well, maybe you won't kowtow to the far left. A yes vote on this Senate resolution will also vindicate the rule of law. What am I talking about, Mr. President? This is the National Petroleum Reserve of Alaska. The Congress of the United States, us, in a law, said that we are going to develop this part of my state for oil and gas production. And Joe Biden came in with a regulation saying, nope, we're going to shut that down, violating the rule of law. If my colleagues on the other side of the aisle really want to promote the rule of law, they should vote yes. And finally, Mr. President, as I mentioned yesterday, this is a vote for the interests of the Native people of my state. As I said yesterday, here was a letter I submitted for the record. The tribe in this area, the borough, which is all run by Alaska Natives, elected officials, the Alaska Native Corporation, all the leaders in this part of my state, which is what this resolution is all about, all of them, all the indigenous people, the leaders of this part of my state want this resolution. They didn't want the Biden lockup. They came down to Washington, D.C. 8 different times to just request a meeting with the Secretary of Interior, saying, don't lock up our lands. This will hurt our future. This will hurt our life expectancy. This will hurt our jobs. And the Secretary of Interior never even met with them. Neither did the President, 8 times. So this is a strong vote for the interests of the indigenous people of my state. I'll conclude with this, Mr. President. My Democratic friends often bristle when accused of selling out the interests of working Americans, the men and women who build stuff, the unions that build stuff, the building trades, the men and women who drill for oil and gas and mines and rare earths and critical minerals. Well, here's an opportunity for them to say, no, we're going to stand with the people who build this great nation. My friends on the other side of the aisle often talk about, hey, we're going to support indigenous people, people of color. Well, here's an opportunity to do it. But what I fear, Mr. President, what happens way too much in this body, these interests, working Americans, building trades, the unions, the Native people of my state, they always get sold out to what? The far left, coastal elites, the radical eco-colonialists. That's why Heinrich and Schumer are down there saying, vote no on the Sullivan resolution. But I know, some of my colleagues know that a yes vote is the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for our energy dominance. It's the right thing to do for our foreign policy. It's the right thing to do for working Americans who have fled the Democratic Party over issues like this. And it's the right thing to do for the indigenous people of my state. I hope I get a couple more Democrat senators who cross the aisle, don't listen to your leader, don't listen to Senator Heinrich, for God's sake, on this issue. Vote yes on this important resolution for America and for working families and the Native people of Alaska. I yield the floor.
Under the previous order, the Senate will resume consideration of S.J. Res. 80, which the clerk will report.
Calendar number 221, S.J. Res. 80, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5, United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to National Petroleum Reserve and Alaska Integrated Activity Plan, record of decision.
Under the previous order, all time has expired. The clerk will read the title of the joint resolution for the third time.
S.J. Res. 80, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5, United States Code, and so forth.
The question occurs on passage of the joint resolution. Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. Clerk, call the roll.
Ms. Also Brooks, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker. Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Marino, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina. Mrs. Shaheen. Mr. Sheehy. Ms. Slotkin. Ms. Smith. Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Thune. Mr. Tillis. Mr. Tuberville. Mr. Van Hollen. Mr. Warner. Mr. Warnock. Ms. Warren. Mr. Welch. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wyden. Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Banks, Blackburn, Capito, Cornyn, Cotton, Crapo, Fisher, Langford, Marshall, McCormick, Scott of South Carolina, Sheehy, and Sullivan. Senators voting in the negative: Blumenthal, Booker, Cortez Masto, Hassan, Heinrich, Hickenlooper, Kane, Kelly, King, Murray, Padilla, Peters, Reed, Schatz, Van Hollen, and Warren. Mr. Kramer, aye. Mr. Haggerty, aye. Mr. Wyden, no. Mr. Tillis, aye. Mrs. Shaheen, no. Mr. Markey, no. Ms. Rosen, no. Mr. Welch, no. Ms. Smith? Ms. Smith? No. Mr. Whitehouse? Mr. Whitehouse? No. Ms. Slotkin? Ms. Slotkin? No. Ms. Baldwin? Ms. Baldwin? No. Ms. Duckworth? Ms. Duckworth? No. Mr. Husted? Mr. Husted? Aye. Mr. Murphy? Mr. Murphy? No. Mr. Sanders? Mr. Sanders? No. Mr. Graham? Mr. Graham? Aye. Mr. Marino? Mr. Marino? Aye.